It's nice to be in Brea. I do mean it. I'm being sincere. I've never felt safer. Oh, no. The median income here is $123,000, so you may not relate to these poor jokes. Poverty, you say? Sounds terrible. Because y'all also have, like, kind of, okay, how do I put this? Y'all's crime here is a little bit like soap opera drama level crime. Like, there was a guy that just got arrested for impersonating a plastic surgeon. I've never been to Brea before, but that's the most Brea thing I've ever heard of in my entire, like, it's the most Orange County type thing I've heard of. This dude was impersonating a plastic surgeon, and a bunch of people came forward being like, I thought he was a plastic surgeon. And so he's locked up right now. Hopefully he goes to jail for a very long time. But apparently him misrepresenting himself as, there are lots of charges because he was practicing. But one of the charges is misrepresenting himself as a medical professional, which is only a misdemeanor. I'm not like a fan of jail, but that needs to be a felony. Like, that's crazy. If someone asks you if you're a doctor, you should have to say no if the answer's no. That's so crazy that someone's like, you're like a real plastic surgeon, right? He was like, like that. That is so horrific. Like, I don't think y'all understand. This dude needs to be buried under a prison. You have never needed like a medical professional without really needing a medical professional. It's never something that you've like dabbled with before. You know what I mean? It's also not something that you can just help with because you feel like it. Like, I'm not a firefighter. Don't have the build, can't carry the gear. But I've stepped on a cigarette before. Do you know what I mean? You know how you can step in, you can do a little something even though the job is not your full job. Medical professional is like black and white. It really is. And so he was arrested. He apparently he did it again so fast after having done it the first time that the article I read said he was rearrested. That's not a word, is it? A journalist had to say rearrested, it was so fast. I live in Brooklyn, and I like it too. I live in Brooklyn, and there was a shooting in my neighborhood. This dude was like a known gang member, got shot at this bodega. He got shot in like the hip, like he's alive, he's all right. But he got shot at 5 a.m. There's no good time to be shot. But getting shot that early is... A lot of people don't know this about gangs. I've never been in a gang, but I've known people who were in gangs and like... But like... Gangs do kind of have office hours. Do you know what I mean? Like, at a certain point, they are like, nobody buying right now. Why would we just stay up all night? That's crazy, right? And so, it's not as if gangs are always just ganging at all hours of the night. They go home at some point. And so to be shot at 5 a.m. means somebody hates you so much, they set an alarm. Because the worst thing about getting shot at 5 a.m., if you get shot at like 3 p.m., right? You can call somebody, oh, they got me. What? What happened? I got shot. Oh, I'm on my way. I got you, right? You get shot at 5 a.m. Everybody gonna be asleep. Pick up, hello? I got shot. Oh, they got me. Come pick me up. I said I got shot. Pick me up. I'm bleeding out. All right. I'll be there in 5 minutes. Like, I don't think I would handle being shot well. But if I got shot at 5 a.m., I'd be like, shoot me again. I don't want to deal with these problems. I don't know. I saw the Biden signed it and everything. Maybe it'll happen. Talking about banning TikTok. The clock is winding down. Oof. Oof. $1 billion company. Maybe gone. They either have to sell off to another buyer. They cannot remain this Chinese company. Or they have to leave. I don't know how you make somebody leave Wi-Fi, but yeah, they have to get out. They'll be banned across the nation. And they say it's for, our safety and everything. They say it's for, security and stuff. Which I think I accidentally already gave them everything. That can't possibly be true because I already let them turn my face into so many faces. Like, I've been a dog, a caterpillar, I've been like another dude. Like, whatever it is, they have it. But, maybe, whatever. And let's say that that's the case. Let's say that our security is at stake, and so they pushed this thing through Congress, and then they signed it in record time because it was a danger to us and they care. I said, let's say. But let's say that is the case. Well, you know what? Good on them. Now do the pharmaceutical companies and the banks and the... Do you know what I mean? Yeah, we've been begging for insulin to be like $1 for decades, and they're like, the best I can do is taking away how you talk to people. Far be it for them to regulate a bank. Because this is my thing. That's what bothers me about it. Is that I don't even care about the ban one way or the other. I really don't. It's like people are gonna find a way to communicate. What bothers me is that it's like you're telling this other company how to run their business for the sake of the citizens, right? Which is exactly what we've been asking them to do for so many different things. Like, we're like, can you just get them to not sell us poison? Because the poison already in there when we buy it. And they're like, far be it for us to tell a company how to run their business. Yeah. I mean, far be it for me to act like I know better than the people who don't understand TikTok. Those hearings are always so embarrassing. They're so genuinely distressing. When these are leaders of, you could say, the free world, right? We call the president the leader of the free world, but the president is beholden by checks and balances to a Congress. They get that Congress to come together, and then they get experts and CEOs from the most powerful companies in the world, and they do a hearing where they're like, can you open my phone? And then you see these CEOs, these billionaires, try not to smile, try not to be like, oh, I can do whatever I want. That dude came from TikTok, right? Dude came from TikTok, went to the hearing, and then dude kept asking him about China, and at one point the guy just had to be like, I'm not even Chinese. Like, I'm not Chinese. It's like you would think he was asking him for like spots to eat. The amount of times this dude had to say, bro, I'm not Chinese though. Like, I'm not. Like, I want you, it's the company? Yes, I am not, sir. I am not Chinese. It was funny because he started interrupting questions just to be like, you gotta understand that I'm not from China. Like, if I leave here with nothing else, you gotta understand that I am not from China. This is clearly just a me thing, but does it bother you when people ask you for directions? I get so nervous and upset. I have a range of emotions when people ask me. Because then, okay, I live in New York, and somebody's asked me for directions to get to the 2 train. And I don't take that train often, but I pass that train sometimes. So I was telling them how to get there, and as I was pointing, they pointed with me, and they were like, so this way. And when they went to point with me, I saw that they were holding their phone. And I was like, so what are we doing here? Is it a typing issue? Why couldn't you done stressed me out for the past 40 seconds. Because this is my thing, I'm so bad at directions myself. Like, just when I lead myself, I'm bad. So then if I have to tell someone else how to get lost, I get so stressed out about it. I assume everyone I've ever given direction to has taken the first turn I told them to take, and then they died. Like, I think I hold so much stress about someone listening to my directions and then either me being wrong or them not listening right, then still being lost and being like, that son of a bitch. I don't even know them. I don't know why I need them to like me, but I'm so, it's the worst. It's the worst. I want to make it sound like I'm being creepy, but I had a show. I was in Brooklyn. I had a show. And after the show, I was just hanging out at the bar. There were some people at the bar. I don't know if they were at the show or if they weren't, but they were talking about, it was 2 guys talking about just the general issue of like homophobia as far as just men are concerned, right? And one guy, they were both a little drunk, but one guy was saying to the other guy, he's like, we have to do something about it as a whole, because I look at my cousin and I love my cousin so much. My cousin is gay, but I don't think about, he's just my cousin. And I want the world to be able to look at my cousin the way that I do. I don't see him as some gay guy or something like that. He's my cousin. So we have to do something about overall homophobia as it stands in the mind, you know? And also, I just want to be able to eat a hot dog. There's not enough time to unpack everything in that one sentence. Because he didn't just mean I'm hungry right now. Like, he didn't just mean we have to tackle this issue and I'd like to eat. He means I want to be able to eat a hot dog, but I can't because of homophobia. No, sir. This is a fraught world for a lot of people. A lot of different groups have to deal with an incredible amount of persecution and a burden that they should not have to bear. But you eating a hot dog is completely on you. Because first of all, I cannot tell from that sentence if he's never eaten a hot dog, because he's scared of where it'll take him. Because also, if you're so scared of eating a hot dog that you like, I can't do it, that's you. Do you know what I mean? Like, you don't need to do any exploring. You know your destination. So I was like, either he's so scared he's never had a hot dog, or he eat hot dogs so wild that people pass by and go, what are you doing? And then he goes, this homophobia cannot stand.
You have seen him everywhere, but tonight you are seeing him live. Please put your hands together for Josh Johnson.
Sometimes I find myself falling down whole rabbit holes online of things, stories and stuff. And there's a case, there's a trial. It just ended. And I think it may qualify for trial of the century. I know that's premature to say, but I don't know. I think it's pretty incredible. The trial of Young Thug just ended. Now, if you don't know who Young Thug is, he's a rapper. It's not a dog whistle this time, all right? Young Thug is a rapper that was on trial in Fulton County in Georgia, right? Basically, the state's case, what they were alleging was that he took all of the money that he made from music and he funneled it through and to a gang called YSL, a gang that he was supposedly the leader of, right? And that's the state's case. And the judge in the case looked exhausted. I've never seen a judge act like this before. Every time the court camera cut to her, her head was in her hands. And I'm not gonna act like I know the law, okay? My understanding of the law sort of begins and ends with Law and Order SVU, all right? So I know you can sustain, and you can object. I've never heard a judge be like, you can't do that. She said it a lot. And now the prosecution in the case, the prosecutor had given out a lot of plea deals. Ton of plea deals. More plea deals than I thought you could give out. I didn't have a number in my head, but this felt like an egregious amount of plea deals. It just felt like she was going to the hood like, you get a plea deal, you get a plea deal, you get a plea deal, you get a plea. She was basically giving a plea deal to everybody in Georgia but Young Thug, right? And she was giving these plea deals in return for their cooperation, their testimony that she would use to piece by piece paint the bigger picture that the state was alleging that Young Thug's the leader of YSL. Everything they do is by his direction. All his money goes through and to them, right? And the only problem is the prosecutor in this case gave plea deals to some of the least helpful people in human history, all right? I've never seen people less helpful than this. It was astoundingly unhelpful. I was helping my friend move one time. And he and I had to move a pool table, just us, downstairs. And our third friend was there at the bottom of the stairs just watching. And even he was more helpful than anyone that the prosecutor gave a plea deal to in this case. At least he could be like, watch your step, something. I'm gonna tell you about some of the testimony. I'm gonna need you to be patient with me because a lot of the dudes testified in this trial are going by their rapper name and they haven't made it yet. So I don't know why it's spelled like that. I don't know how to pronounce it. Just, I'm gonna say he for short, all right? There's one dude that was on the stand, right? And the prosecutor asked him a very specific question, a very specific reason. She goes, did Young Thug have an issue with Rich Homie Quan bringing his friend to the party, right? Now, Rich Homie Quan is also a rapper who has sadly passed away. But his friend, to the best of my knowledge, allegedly, is a gang member, right? This whole question is to paint Young Thug as a leader of a gang. That's why he would have a problem with a different gang member coming to his party, right? So the prosecutor asked, did Young Thug have an issue with Rich Homie Quan bringing his friend to the party? And then this guy on the stand goes, Thug, did you have an issue with Rich Homie Quan? Never in the history of court have I seen someone ask a question by the prosecution and then go, I'll just go to the source. And so then the prosecutor goes, no, I'm asking you. Did Young Thug have an issue with Rich Homie Quan bringing his friend to the party, all right? And then this guy goes, I'm not Young Thug, so I don't know. Moments later, the prosecutor's asking question after question after question, all alleging the same thing, all to the same end, right? And this dude, he's not being combative. He's not even being rude. He's just not being helpful. And so then the prosecutor pulls up, I don't know if she pulled up it exactly, but basically references his plea deal where she goes, I have right here you answering questions definitively that I'm asking you right now. And then this guy on the stand goes, y'all wrote that, I just signed it. Never in the history of court, at least that I know of, and it's like, you know, the internet especially was of two minds, because it was like people could not decide if these were like some of the dumbest people who had ever lived or legal masterminds. Because basically what this dude is saying in open court, right, is, look, you were about to give me how many years? I didn't want to do how many years, and you told me if I signed the paper, I wouldn't do how many years, right? So I signed the paper, but I'm not about to perjure myself. This dude was supposed to be on the stand for 3 hours. 3 days later. The prosecution is asking question after question after question, all to the same end, right? And, you know, references again. Look, I understand that we typed it up, but what is in this is based off of what you said to the police. This is based off of testimony you gave during interrogation. And he was like, yeah, but if you gave it to me to type up, it would say something different than what you have right there, right now. Even the prosecutor was like, oh. Question after question after question after question. And finally, this dude, he doesn't snap exactly. He doesn't lose it, right? I think he just gets exhausted. And finally he says, look, I'll tell you what I told the police. I'll say anything. Like, this is a witness for the prosecution. It's absolutely insane. The whole case is insane because you even look at the fact that the case had 3 different judges. Yeah, got passed off like a bad baton. First judge was Judge, I don't know how to pronounce his name. I think it's Glanville, yeah. And this judge, he does seem to suck. Like, he does. But he also had to put up with some stuff, too, because there were jurors that were fully out of pocket during this case. Just a couple of examples. There was one juror that got picked. It already took nearly a year, by the way, to pick a jury, which is insane. And then after they picked the jury, there's one juror that during the trial has started, and I think they just went to the Dominican Republic. Deputies got sent to their house, were knocking on the door and everything, and then they got back, and they had to appear in court, and the judge was like, you have jury duty, you have to be here to be on the jury. And they were like, every day? That sounds wildly inconvenient. Then the judge was ready to, hold this jury in contempt and was basically giving them an out, because this judge in particular loved contempt. He had a lot of contempt. The entire trial full of contempt. And gave the juror a way out. He was like, look, I could send you to jail, I could fine you, but what I'm gonna have you do instead is write me a 30-page paper on the importance of being a juror. This dude sentenced her to APA style. He sentenced her to citing sources. You couldn't see his face in the moment, but even Thug was like, damn. That's cruel and unusual. I've never heard of that before. There was another juror that I admittedly, I don't even know what happened with this person, but I know that they got in trouble for for live streaming the case. Which is extra crazy because it was being live streamed. Like, if you had been watching at home, you would just see them sit with the jury like... You risk jail time for an extra angle. We are... Judge Glanville, oof. There was a lot of plea deals being given out the entire case, like I said before. And some of the things that were happening was, this is me guessing, but there were people that were not being super forthcoming, that they probably didn't necessarily have to be, but they were in some sort of trouble. And so the plea deal was just given just as an extra, it's okay, you can talk, we just need to get this guy, right? And even with that, there were still people that didn't quite want to testify. And then there were people that were being so difficult, state's witnesses who were being so difficult that the state just could not get anywhere, And there was one person, star witness. Basically, the prosecution needed a through line. They needed something that would connect everything. And so they laid a lot of it on one person in particular. Okay? And they needed his testimony so bad that they pretty much gave him immunity on the stand. I didn't even know you could do that. It sounds made up. It sounds fake. I feel like he thought it was fake too, because he was like, immunity on, so if I say something on the stand, answering one of your questions, and it implicates Thug, but it also implicates me, I'm okay? Yeah, you're okay, you have immunity. Immunity on the stand, you're gonna be good. You sure? Yeah, you're gonna be good. Okay, I'm not even joking. He goes, okay. Okay, but what if it's federal? And I love that. I love a good haggle. I love like, okay, I hear immunity, but can I get a federal? Can I get some federal? Federal, please. Can I get a little federal? Oh, it's beautiful. This dude gets all the stab, and you can tell he doesn't trust it. You can tell he's like, nah, they're up to something. Doesn't want to answer any questions, but we told you have immunity. All right. Basically compelling this man to testify, dangling immunity in his face. Sits on the stand. First question from a prosecutor. How old are you? And he goes, grown. And the prosecutor's like, what do you mean by grown? It's like, I'm an adult. Prosecutor is like, okay, seeing as you're an adult, how many years is that? And then he goes, looks over at the judge. I plead the fifth. Truly incredible work. Truly phenomenal, They would be asking him lots of questions, question after question. And it was getting frustrating for the prosecution. It was getting frustrating for the judge because, look, maybe I'm doing my best to be as fair as possible. But when you watch a case like this, it does just seem like if you're a defendant, you're up against two parties. You're up against the prosecution and you're up against the judge, because everything in this case kept giving the prosecution chances, even when they would mess up. Because once again, they're not being given a lot with testimony, but there are things that they have in hard evidence. They're just not bringing them all together to make it cohesive, right? And then this star witness's testimony is not helping. So then, can't stress this enough, you cannot do this. Judge Glanville supposedly has a secret meeting with the witness and the prosecution, but not Young Thug's lawyers, right? It's something in Latin that I don't know how to pronounce, but you're not supposed to do it. And basically, in this meeting, this witness is then threatened with the dangled immunity and everything. Oh, we'll charge you for this. We'll hold you in contempt for 2 years. We'll put you in jail. All this stuff, unless you start testifying, unless you start answering questions to the best of your ability. I don't want to hear any more of this pleading of the fifth, all that stuff, right? And so then they go back to court, and he's answering questions so well that the defense gets suspicious. Defense is like, what happened between now and lunch? All of a sudden, he remembers everything. He remembered what color everybody was wearing. And then it comes to the defense lawyer's attention that there was this secret meeting. And so he addresses it in court, in front of the judge, to the judge. He goes, Your Honor, I've heard some distressing news that there was a secret meeting with you, the prosecution, and the witness. My client and I were not privy to. I don't know what was discussed. You know, this person's acting different now. Like, what is this? And the judge, instead of denying it, instead of being like, that's a horrible accusation, that's not true at all, the judge goes, who told you that? And you can look at it because it was live streamed. You can look, who told you that? And he's like, Your Honor, don't worry about who told me that. That's the least of my concern. It's who told me that. The meeting is my concern. He's like, no, I need to know. This is very distressing. I need to know who told you that. And he's like, Your Honor, it doesn't matter who told me that. Is that true? Like, did that happen? Who told you that? Who told you that? Who told you that? Who told you that? Over and over and over. And it's just wild that, like, in a RICO case involving supposed gang members, that the judge is like, who snitched? No, for real, who snitched? Huh? Like, hey, I need you to come up out them names. Who snitched? Ain't nobody play with. Look, I will bust everybody in here right now. Who snitched? And Doug's lawyer is like, no, look, I'm not gonna tell you, all right? I'm not gonna tell you how I came upon this knowledge. I'm just asking you if this happened. I'm asking you, maybe even for a mistrial. Like, how could this happen? He goes, who told you? Who told you? I'm gonna give you 5 minutes to tell me who told you. And Doug's lawyer is like, I don't need 5 minutes. I'm not gonna tell you. That should be the least of your concern. Like, is this true? And he's like, I'm gonna hold you in contempt if you don't tell me. I will put you in jail if you don't tell me. You will go to jail if you do not tell me. It's like, look, I'm not going to tell you. You can put me in jail, but the problem is the meeting. The problem isn't who told me, right? And so then the judge does it. He holds Doug's lawyer in contempt, which is pretty terrifying. You know? This judge is basically going over and over again. Who snitched? Who snitched? I can't stand a snitch. And you know... And you couldn't see Thug's face in the moment, but he had to have been like, I know, right? And so then Glanville does it. He holds Thug's lawyer in contempt. And, you know, the Bar Association hears about it. And they show up to back Thug's lawyer up because that's terrifying. That's terrifying if a judge does something, doesn't even bother denying it, and then holds you in contempt for asking. That's a scary court system. You know what I mean? Because that's one of those things, if it can happen to anybody, it can happen to anybody. Like, I know that it's a case involving hip hop, involving like gang culture, whatever, but that particular thing, that could happen to anybody, I promise you. That's very scary, you know? And so the Bar Association shows up to back this dude up, and it looks like his case is going to be heard, and probably the contempt is going to be thrown out. But basically, they tell Glanville, it's like, there's no way you're impartial. If you're trying this hard, there's no way you're willing to just let the facts play out. And so Glanville has to recuse himself from the case. And one of the things about recusing yourself, it doesn't undo damage. The case just goes on, you know? So there's still this like contempt hanging over Thug's lawyer's head and stuff. And then they move on to the next judge, and the next judge was the judge for a day. I'm not a judge, and I don't know how judges get cases and stuff. Apparently this case was just given to her randomly and everything, and then she got the case and she was immediately like, hey, y'all, I can't. And so many people were like, why? What's the problem? Don't worry about me. I can't right now. And so then the case goes to the third judge. You know, the judge just, that judge. The case goes to her and she does her best. But it's very difficult. It's very difficult because there are things happening in the case that should just never happen. They actually had an officer come in who was, I guess you could almost call him a specialist in RICO cases through his police work, right? And even he made a mistake on the stand that had the defense asking for a mistrial, because basically the state handled the case so poorly, so messy, just so confusing, right? That the defense would be asking for a mistrial consistently. They were asking for a mistrial the way that you act when you got 2 cards left in Uno. Anybody do anything, you're like, oh. Defense would call for a mistrial nonstop. That's a mistrial right there, Your Honor. He just sneezed. That's a mistrial. He gonna get everybody sick. Because this witness on the stand, his testimony, I'm pretty sure, had to be thrown out because even though he's an expert in RICO and everything, it was 2 things were revealed that were pretty distressing. One, it's a RICO case, so they're trying to get everybody on everybody's crimes, but they never bothered to really look at the financial records of Thug. Which is pretty insane if you're telling me that all the money he makes, he runs through and to a gang. And you didn't bother to check a Chase statement or anything? That's wild. And then, while this officer is giving testimony, he makes a mistake that obviously wouldn't be called out by the prosecution, but does not get called immediately. And then the defense hears it, and then they're like, this is crazy. We can't allow it. Basically, he references past convictions as part of a testimony to what this person would have done in this case. And you can't do that. You got to judge it by the merits of the evidence you have in front of you about what happened right now, right? And at one point, the judge loses it. She storms out. The judge goes, I can't take it anymore. She hadn't even been the judge the whole time, but she was like, this is insanity. And you couldn't see his face, but you could imagine Thug being like, I know, right? Like, and so she almost grants a mistrial. There's a mistrial with prejudice and mistrial without prejudice. Mistrial with prejudice is basically don't even bring it up again. Mistrial without prejudice is like, okay, you didn't make the best case, or something happened, or a bunch of jurors went to the Dominican Republic, so like, we can try it again later.
And so, the judge at one point has had it with the prosecution and is giving like a full-on. You just so rarely hear people talk to like this on a live stream that aren't on a Zoom call at home. Like this, she was just like, she was looking at the prosecution and she was at her wit's end, and she was like, I don't know what to say to you. Like, I don't know, with the years of experience that you have, I don't know if you were willfully trying this case as badly as possible, or if you were just so unorganized that you can't seem to string a coherent thought together on how 2 things are related. And we've heard testimony. There are people that don't show up. We're leaving at 4:25. Like, what is happening? And the whole time, prosecution is like, oh. You ever just take your talking to because you're like, yeah, it's pretty bad. Yeah, and like the prosecutor had the same nod that dudes have on the street when they getting yelled at on Valentine's Day. It's just like, just go ahead and nod. Accept that you've messed up. It was so bad. And it'd be thing after thing after thing, whether it was jurors, whether it was judges, whether it was just wild testimony. There were people so uncooperative, right? Like there was one point where they showed this guy a picture, right? And it's a picture of him and Thug and two other people. Apparently with the person, I don't know, I didn't see the picture, but apparently with the person who was murdered, right? Because that's one of the charges. There's drug trafficking, there's like gun running, there's all this stuff, but there's also a murder, right? And when it comes to the murder, that's one of the big ones because they're alleging that Thug paid for the getaway car, right? And so once again, not checking his financial record seems like an oversight. I'm not a lawyer. I'm just saying. And they show a picture, right, with all these people to someone on the stand. And they're like, do you recognize anyone in this picture? And he's like, I see me. Okay, fair enough. Even when it came to start with this, there was one time where they simply asked this dude, when did you meet Young Thug? And he was like, before I went to jail. And just for the sake of clarity, the prosecutor tried to clarify, which time before you went to jail? And he just goes, you're right. And I don't know how you handle this sort of thing, because this ended up being the longest trial in Georgia's history. Also, one of the most expensive, if not the most expensive, because I guess plea deals cost a lot of money. And it gets so bad that every day, defense is like, hey, mistrial's still an option. You want to hit it with a little mistrial? We can mistrial. You know what I mean? But then, the prosecution would do something that would kind of warrant a little bit of a mistrial. Like there was even one point where they had someone on the stand read a caption from an Instagram post. And this caption had been poured over because basically through the hashtags, what a lot was being alleged, because whenever there's letters, whenever there's numbers, it could have no meaning, or it could have double meaning, or it could mean exactly what the prosecution wants it to mean. It could mean what the defense wants it to mean. And so they were arguing about this one picture over and over again before they would let the person just read it out loud to the jury, right? Because then I don't know if it's a gang, and I don't know if that was what the prosecution was alleging, but there was one point where the prosecutor was asking someone on the stand about a series of numbers, right? And a lot of people will sort of rep their area code. That's just a common thing throughout America, right? Exactly. That one, that's one of those things. It's like it's so unifying. Everyone does it. Like sometimes you just can't help it. Yeah. But this is my thing. The dude on the stand, prosecutor asked him, "What's 374?" And he was like, "Numbers." Maybe it's a gang, maybe it's not. I have no idea, right? But basically, there's this one picture that's being poured over and over again, and this was the straw that sort of broke everything, right? Because they had made agreements and they had even redacted the picture so that only what would be read was what the prosecution and defense agreed on based off of the evidence that they were both showing, right? But then when they actually gave the picture to the person on the stand, nothing was redacted. And the prosecutor had them read everything. And so then the defense is like, Your Honor. I've never heard a lawyer have to like go Your Honor, kind of like, Mom, like. But this was it, Your Honor. We just went over the thing. Why would Shaw? And sure enough, Judge agreed. Judge was like, look, I gotta do something else with my life too. Like, it's just, it can't just be this. And the judge said an interesting thing, and like I said, I know a little bit about the law, most of it, what not to do from this case. But the judge says something where she's like, I'm basically trying to salvage something here because I don't want an entire jury's 11 months to be wasted. I don't want, which to me is a little weird. Their time's already been wasted. Like, this is about seeing if someone did or didn't do something. You know? And so that statement was said, but then, judge turns to the defense and goes, I'm not gonna grant you a mistrial with prejudice, but would you like a mistrial without prejudice? And defense was like, yup. And then she was like, I'm inclined to give it to you because this whole thing, this right here, no. No. And so then, they get to plea dealing a bunch of people day after day after day. And then they actually go to Thug and they're like, look, you're facing like 25, 40 years for all the things that we are alleging, right? But we'll give you probation, right? We'll give you probation if you just admit that you are the leader of YSL, a gang where you can take all the money and you funnel it through into the gang and everything they do is at your direction. Like if you'll just say that probation, you'll be good to go, right? And then Thug says, no, I'm not just gonna accept. You came to me to make your case for you. You know what I mean? No. And that's a very, I don't know, to me, that's a very, brave thing. I don't even fully understand all of the conditions around the sentence that he actually got, but that was what he was initially presented with. And he said no. And then the state said, okay, we're gonna make sure that you do 25 years. And that doesn't sit right with me. And it obviously didn't sit right with his defense attorney. His defense attorney brought it up when the judge was about to make a decision. Basically, he says, Your Honor, the state came to us and they said he could do probation if he signs this piece of paper, or he could do 25 years if he doesn't. And I'm just kind of curious why the state would allow someone that they're so sure is a racketeering, drug peddling murderer to go free with probation if they're sure, right? And that he'll do 25 years if he doesn't say what they're so sure of. And the judge was like, good point. that is very hard to argue against. You know? And then the judge granted Thug probation and, you know, went home. And there are some people that are like, man, you know, if he could have just stuck it out a little bit longer, seen the trial to its end, there's no way he would have been convicted. The defense was ruining the state, like just at every turn. And it was mostly the state tripping over themselves, right? And I get it, though. That dude sat in jail without bond. Dude was in jail for 2 years. He was in jail for a year while they picked a jury. He was in jail the entire trial, you know? And every once in a while, don't get me wrong, every once in a while, Thug would also laugh. Because, like, he was facing a lot of time, but every once in a while, he'd also be like, how did we get here? This seems... Far be it for me to say, I'm just a rapper, but as far as the law goes... But what? I don't know. I don't know. I get it. I get somebody tells you, hey, you just do 3 more months, you'll go free forever. Maybe. That's scary, you know? And it's also scary that, like, that the state needed it this bad. That a lot of cases come down to reputation over justice. You couldn't just take the L, right? It's like, no, you will die in prison for me to not look bad. That's terrifying, you know? And I know it feels like it can't happen. Yeah, I mean, like, I don't rap, but I could see myself in a bad situation. You know, because it kind of begs the question, you know, did this person get away with a bunch of stuff, or did the state just jam someone up for 2 years? You know, thanks. But that's my thing. It's like I don't even know, and I'm obviously not Thug. You know, I hope that everybody can like move on in the most prosperous way possible. I really do. Everybody that testified, everybody. I wish the best for everyone. I really do. I just can't seem to think there's a level of peace you have to attain that I don't know if I have. Because if someone accused me of being this like drug running, you know, murderer, this horrible person, like this that did all these things, and they were willing to put me in jail forever with a bad case that they didn't have enough evidence for, and then they were just like, you can go if you just sign it. I think it would make me mad enough to kill someone. But that's just me.
Give it up for Josh Johnson.
I've been loving getting to watch in real time the indictment of New York Mayor Eric Adams. This dude sucks so much. It's so bad. This dude sucks. I don't know who your mayor is, but be glad it's not Eric Adams. This dude is the worst. He's so corrupt. And it's like corruption. This is what's disappointing about Eric Adams' corruption, is that it's like petty. Do you know what I mean? We expect politics to be corrupt. It says a lot that we do, but a part of us, do you know what I mean? And what does that say about us to a certain degree? I think about that a lot. What does that say about our expectations, that we expect corruption? You know what I mean? At lots of levels, you know? City councilman did this thing, president did this thing, whatever it is, we expect it. And then when people run, we don't really believe in them. Maybe if someone can make us believe in them along the way, that's the person that we vote for, because we're like, wow, this person's different. But different from what? The expectation is corruption, you know? And he's corrupt in a way that's truly disappointing. It's a shame. It's embarrassing how easy a politician is to buy. You could lease a new Subaru, or you could buy a politician depending on the position of the state. The things these people go down for, we're talking not money if we're talking politics, right? Like if I was a senator and I wanted to be corrupt, you'd have to get me good. You have to take care of me, because I might lose my job. I might go to jail. I need a nest egg to protect me. You know, something to look forward to while I'm in jail doing all that time for doing you a favor and being corrupt. Like, that's why I don't agree with it, and I'm glad he's going down for it. But Menendez makes sense. He took gold bars. That's cartoonish corruption. That is like full on 1950s cartoon corruption. That is New Yorker political cartoon corruption, to just take actual gold bars. Where do you get gold bars from? And then take the gold bars to do the favor for the person. This is what's funny about Eric Adams being indicted, is that New York City is, and this is coming from someone who lives there, and I do love it in New York, right? But New York is a dirty place, all right? Inside and out, okay? It's one of the more corrupt places. So to be the first mayor to ever be indicted with corruption charges in New York City, you gotta be one of the dumbest people who has ever lived. It's a city of corruption, and you got caught. That's crazy. Sometimes I can't believe it. You know what I mean? Like, I'm sure he couldn't believe it. He was like, y'all, this is what we do. How y'all gonna get mad now? I did the regular amount of corruption. I didn't even go overboard. I got some flights upgraded. Why would y'all? No, it is that dumb. This dude, Eric Adams' corruption is so petty. This dude about to go to jail because he let Turkey upgrade some flights for him. He basically is gonna go to jail for what is Delta Gold Medallion. Like, it's just... It's very petty. Some nice meals, some flights. That's great. That our mayor, New York's mayor, all it took to buy him was just treat him like a bad bitch for a night. Like, it's... Do you know how embarrassing that is? Do you know how much money is in New York? I need at least 6 skyscrapers to be as corrupt as Eric Adams. I'd be like, take care of me. No, I need land. What are you talking about, a flight? A flight where I might fall asleep and miss my corruption? No. Because you know, sometimes you get upgraded by your airline, you get all excited, you like, oh, I'm sitting in, got the extra leg room and everything. I can kick for no reason and stuff. And then you wake up at the destination and you're like, dang, I didn't even enjoy the free glass of champagne and orange juice. That's his level of corruption. It's so dumb. He sucks. But Eric Adams started as a cop, right? And I actually watched this video of him. It was a very entertaining watch. Basically, when he was a cop, he did a video. Maybe he was still a cop. I don't know. Maybe it retired. But anyway, he used his police expertise to make the video. And it's basically a video where he shows parents how to search their children's rooms for drugs and guns, right? And the thing that's amazing about it is that clearly one of two things happened. Either Eric Adams told whoever was shooting the video to just go fill a room full of crack, or Eric Adams kept using the same 6 crack rocks in between takes. Because he was pulling crack out of places that didn't really make any sense. Like those, when you have crack, the intention is to smoke it or sell it. And where he was pulling, because then first of all, the room didn't make sense because the room is supposed to be a child's room, right? But the room has stuff for a kid that's about to head off to college or somebody in preschool. Like, there's just too much going on in the room. The room makes sense if you were never gonna leave that room for 26 years. Like, it doesn't, the room did not make sense at all. So then Eric Adams would do weird stuff, like he'd be like, looks like a regular tricycle, right? But if you pop this tire right quick, you pop this tire, pull it out, what do we find? Crack cocaine. It was incredible. Like, looks like a regular doll, huh? But if you stab it in the back and rip it open, what do we find? Crack cocaine. And honestly, like, look, I even get the spirit behind what he's doing, but if your child is on crack, there will be other signs. Besides a heavy tricycle wheel. I've never seen a kid on a bike with a flat tire and been like, we're losing the youth. It's insane. This dude is over here going, a simple jewelry box. But if we open it, what do we find? A loaded gun. A pillow? You gave your child a pillow? And thought that they weren't gonna do the worst with it? You reach in that pillowcase, what do you find? A Glock. My favorite was standing near a bookcase. And he didn't say these words exactly, but the feeling that I got when I was watching him was just, you think your child reads? You think your little baby boy, baby girl reading in here? No. They're a child, and we all know children are what? Crackheads. You open this book, and what do you find? What spills out? Crack cocaine. No, it was incredible. It was truly, the only thing he did do was pull crack out of the gun. Like, but, and I can't stress this enough, Eric Adams is like terrible. He really is, like, he really is, he's the worst. It's so bad. He sucks. He sucks so much. You should be so glad he's not your mayor. Like, that's, oh man. I'll be honest with you. I didn't do the research. I don't know who your mayor is. I just know it's not Eric Adams. So you got 2 legs up on New York City. This dude, first of all, when he was running, he was corrupt. The dude was running, and he was already doing stuff where we were like, if it's not illegal, it's weird. This dude told the story of, because, he's a cop, and he reminds everybody all the time they used to be a cop, right? And it depends, because he does a thing that's real sneaky. He's really good at it, right? Where he was a black cop. So in some rooms, he's black. In some rooms, I used to be a cop. And never the 2 rooms shall meet. If like... It's crazy. Okay, so this dude, when he was running, would tell the story of a fallen officer, right? His friend that he loved dearly, who died in the line of duty, and he loved his friend so much that he keeps a picture of him in his wallet with him all the time, right? And it's a heartwarming story because no matter your feelings on cops, no matter your feelings on like the criminal justice system, I think everyone can understand what it's like to lose a friend, right? You can understand what it's like to lose, especially when you lose a friend when you're both in danger. Maybe you both were in the military together. Maybe you're both cops. Maybe you served in some way and then you lost your friend. And no one's gonna know what that was like except for people who it also happened to, right? And he kept the picture in his wallet. Except the picture in his wallet that he showed people was printed out by his staff members, and they threw a little coffee on it to make it look old. And that's before he did anything illegal. This dude is the devil. Like, he really sucks. This dude, I don't even know how he won. He doesn't live in New York. You know how usually you have to live where you're the mayor of? I'm not gonna make any assumptions about your mayor, but I'm assuming they live here. I imagine your mayor doesn't actually live in Illinois. That would be weird, right? To come over and be like, hey, I'm here with y'all. We're in this together. I'ma go, though. Dude lived in Jersey. And then it got outed that he lived in Jersey. And so at the last second, he had the New York Times try to help him cover it. And they did a profile of him at his house in Brooklyn that he was clearly walking into for the first time. This dude walked in. You could tell he had never been in there before. He over here like, and as you can see, my wall. If you don't have one, you gotta get one. All right, these walls are fire. This dude walked in, and clearly, whatever staff was trying to help him look like he lived there, I feel like they tried to like Ocean's 11 it and like did it a little too late because they were clearly moving stuff into the place to make it look furnished. But then he probably called them and told like, hey, I'm on the way now. Y'all got to get out because the apartment did not make sense. You walk in and in the living room is the bed. That's an intern who had to drop the bed like as they like, what? And then, they go, he opens the fridge because he really tried to do this MTV Cribs for the New York Times, right? And so then he opens the fridge and he's like, blat out my snacks, right? And there is way too much meat for Adams to be a vegan. There's so much meat. It looked like it was stocked by Hillshire Farms. There's way too much meat in there.
Not even mistakable meat. Not even like, oh, I thought the impossible burger. Like, it was full on meat. And when they ask him about it, he's like, oh, my son be sneaking in, you know what I mean? You know, because you know how when you have kids, you know, as parents, you know how when you have kids, they sneak into your home and leave food, you know what I mean? In the fridge uneaten. You know how children are. All they do is leave food in the fridge and smoke crack. That's what children do. This dude is the worst. This man brought back stop and frisk. If you don't know what stop and frisk is, it was practice in New York where basically the police could stop you at any time and frisk you, check you for drugs and weapons and stuff like that. It was very popular under like Giuliani and stuff, but it was like found to be pretty disproportionate because they would just stay in one place and check everybody there. You know? So it was just black and brown people. It was mostly black and Hispanic people that were like stopped and frisked. And it didn't even really work because the people with guns and drugs were like, I'll stay home. You know? They found when they did studies on it that, you know, more often than not, it was men, over 9% men. So it's like 99.3% men of the stop and frisk. And then also in the 90s were black and brown people. So it was like, I think like 5% white, right? Which is just go all over New York. You're allowed to stop and frisk. Just stop and frisk everywhere. Just do the Upper West Side. Do you know what I mean? Just be like, hey, what's in the briefcase though? That could be full of anything. But they didn't, so it was found to be like an unconstitutional practice. It was found unconstitutional in 2013, and the New York police like disbanded it fully in 2020, and then Eric Adams brought it back. Which is odd, because this is my thing about Eric Adams, and what I mean about that chameleon move that he does is that Eric Adams, I don't even know the exact particulars of the story. All I know is that he was arrested when he was a kid. Some people say he was a member of a gang himself, right? And that he, got beat up by the police. He tells this story of being a victim of police brutality at like 14, 15. Him and his friend got caught. They had done two things. I think they had stolen some checks or something, and they stole something else, and it was when they were trying to cash the stolen check they got caught, and basically they got beat up at the police station. And apparently the way that I believe Eric tells it is that these white cops were beating him and his friend up, and then a black cop came in and told him to stop. And he was like, and that was the moment I decided that I wanted to be a police officer, turn my life around, everything, because I just saw the way that black cop moved, right? He's like, I saw the power, the respect, I saw the fear that people had, you know, and I was like, that, oh, okay. It's a weird thing to pull from that lesson, but all right. We're all our own people. And so it's weird to me that he's so adamant about being punitive as someone who grew up the way that he grew up. It's very odd that he doesn't see himself in any of the youth that he wants to arrest or wants to punish. Like and that's even only part of why he sucks. Like, he sucks. This dude sucks so much. He's the worst. They opened the investigation into Eric Adams the way that the feds do, which is quietly. You know what I mean? The thing that's scary about the feds is that they always get you. Their conviction rate is in the 90s. So it's basically done. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, when they show up
it's only a matter of time, right? And the feds opened an investigation into him, and they went, this is like a year ago, that they came through and they were like, hey, we're gonna need everybody's cell phone. Your whole team, right? Which is already not great. Probably every mean thing I've ever said is on my cell phone. Do you know what I mean? Like, I try to be a good person, but if you pull up on me and you snatch my cell phone, you're gonna be like, oh, you an asshole, okay. The cell phone feels safe. You know, and the feds roll up and, you know, take his laptop, his cell phone, everything. And this is how you know, this is how a guilty dude moves, right? So he goes ahead and gets swooped on when the feds come and get everybody's cell phone. And he's like, oh, actually, my cell phone, I don't have it on me, right? I don't have it. And they were like, okay, we'll bring it first thing tomorrow. And he brings it. Next day, brings it, right? And then he's like, actually, I had changed my password to keep my aides out of my phone, because you know how aides are, always trying to face ID you and see what your business is and everything, even though you email them personally and stuff. But like, try to keep my aides out of my phone. So went ahead and I'm giving it to you now, but just know that I had to change the password, keep my aides out of my phone, and I just forgot it. This dude moves like a man who cheats. Like, that's crazy. And the feds basically had so much on them that they were like, oh, we don't need your phone. Because we have every other phone that you text. Ooh. There's even instances of Adam's aides knowing things were illegal and then being like, y'all, this is illegal. They said it in the text, but y'all, this is illegal. I don't think he'll want to do it. And then you know that text bubble? He'd be like, hey, this is illegal. I don't know if he'll want to do it. And then the person from Turkey or wherever would be like, are you sure? And then the text bubble. That bubble be cooking, right? That bubble be bubbling up, right? And then it go away for a second. And then it come back and be like, never mind, he's down. The amount of times that his aide said to other people, this is illegal. And then several texts later be like, so when are we? It was incredible, man. It's really fascinating. And then there was like, I think it was like one of his campaign aides, one of the people that worked under him, was being interrogated. And as soon as she realized the interrogation wasn't friendly, she was like, can I go to the bathroom real quick? And so they were like, yeah, sure. And then she went to the bathroom and apparently started mass deleting as many text messages as she could. But then she was in there so long that the fans were like, she deleted text messages. Like, nobody got a boo-boo that bad. Like, I mean, who knows? Maybe she is shitting herself, but not. I can just imagine you realize your boss about to go to jail, you might go to jail too, and now you in the bathroom just, I'll be right out. Oh, it's bad. Oh no. Y'all still there? I can't stress this enough. This dude sucks. Like, it's like, okay. Maybe one of the funniest things about the whole case is that we don't definitively know one way or the other, but there's a chance that this dude would, like, the last straw that broke everything, that had the roof come tumbling down, that kicked over his house of cards, might have been, maybe, Sabrina Carpenter. Inadvertently. I don't know if you remember, but Sabrina Carpenter did a music video for a song called Feather, right? And in that music video, she's in a church, right? And she got permission to be in that church. As controversial as everything was, and as much as the archdiocese freaked out after they saw the video and as upset as people were, she got permission, right? She did the right thing, and she asked, can I do my video here? She didn't just run in and be like, quick. She did everything by the book, right? And the person that allowed her was a Monsignor, right? This Monsignor gave permission to shoot in the church and everything. And then when the video comes out, obviously the archdiocese is all upset and stuff. They're like, nothing provocative or sexual should be in a church. That's what they said. Don't get weird with me. And so then they demoted the Monsignor. That's how mad they were, you know? They didn't fire him because I guess it's impossible to get fired at a church. You know, anybody else, any other job, they would have been like, you gotta go. But Catholic Church, they're like, no, we'll move you, don't worry. And basically, one of the things that came from that whole thing, especially how public it was the feds subpoenaed the archdiocese over the Monsignor because he had connections, like as in a relationship or maybe even a business relationship with Eric Adams' chief of staff, right? And so they were like looking into it, and then Sabrina Carpenter's moved on. She just sort of like, oh, I didn't realize it. Whoops. And I don't know. I think that people don't realize how much trouble Eric Adams is in because this isn't like a police thing. This isn't like a local police or something. Like local police could run cover for a mayor. And so Eric Adams gets indicted, right? Present day, he gets indicted, and this dude holds a press conference. It's one of the worst press conferences I've ever watched in my entire life. This is incredible. People talk about Giuliani and everything when he did that 4 seasons press conference and stuff like that. Not gonna lie, this one put that one to shame, okay? This one was really, but first of all, they decided to do it outside. I don't really know why, but maybe he's not allowed in buildings. I have no idea, but they decided to do it outside, and they had a tent up because it was raining. But Eric Adams and he does this a lot. He does this in a way, this is one of the reasons I can't stand Eric Adams. This is one of the things that makes him suck, right? Is that whenever he's in trouble, whenever he needs something, he's very, very black. You know, and so now that he's in trouble, he has gathered around him every black person that will stand next to him, I suppose. And so he had everybody. He had so many people that they couldn't all fit under the tent. So now there are some people getting rained on halfway, just trying to lean in and everything. Do the one-sided thing. And the press conference starts, and there's protesters at the press conference. And, you know, Adams did some weird stuff. Like when he got indicted, he did like a message to New Yorkers and everything. And in the message, he says, like, I knew as soon as I stood up for New York, I would become a target. And then we were like, when did you stand up and who is targeting you? Like, this is odd. I've heard this language before, but I've never seen it make less sense since the last time I heard it. Yeah. And finally, you know, he goes ahead, he's doing press conference and stuff, and there's protesters there. And the protesters are screaming at him. They're like, you're an embarrassment. Don't try to act black now. You brought back stop and frisk. You brought back every policy that came down hard on the black community, but now you want to be black because you're in trouble and you want us to back you up and everything. And they're yelling. And the whole time, Eric Adams is like, You ever been at a restaurant and there's a couple trying not to fight? And then finally one of them can't take it anymore and she stands up and she's like, you cheating bastard, or whatever. And then he's like, It was that. And so he just stands like, okay. And then he lets people speak for him, right? So his pastor speaks, and his other pastor speaks, and I think another pastor speaks. You go to extra church when you're in trouble, right? So then pastor after pastor after pastor are speaking, right? And all the pastors are like, hey, listen, we don't even know. Everybody has to have their day in court. Like, no one is actually professing this dude's innocence. Everybody's like, yeah, you can't judge lest ye be judged. And once again, remember, I told you it's one of the worst press conferences I've ever seen, because not only can not everybody fit under the tent, and not only are the people not making a convincing argument for Adams to be innocent, which is what we would very much like our elected official to be, right? This one lady gets up there, and she's been the loudest against the other protest. She's like, shut up, let him speak, blah, 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 right? And so it's her turn to speak. And then she gets up there, and she's like, good morning, New York! Like, she's just trying to shout everybody down. She's like, I've known Eric Adams for 40 years! And she's just screaming, right? And he is completely... And then the mic starts going out. Completely... And another thing... And he's not corrupt with a... Thank you. And then the dude went up there, and I don't really know what his position was. I don't know. He might have just been a black dude Eric Adams pulled that day, because this guy gets up there and he goes, good morning, New York. Good morning, New York. I've known Eric Adams for years, and he is, for 64 years, he has loved and served New York, and we cannot throw away 64 years over 5 indictments. He is 64. And I was like, where's the logic going here? You want that dude to be innocent because he's 64? Like, is that... There's no way he served 64 years. He just is alive for 64 years. But this dude was slick with it. He was like, do not throw away 64 years over 5 indictments. Nobody gonna kill him. Like, what are you talking about? Throwing away 64, we're not dating him. He got indicted. Do not throw away 64 years over 5 indictments. He is 64, thank you. I feel like that's all I do. The Eric Adams was like, probably should have let that be a tweet. And then it's Eric Adams' turn, right? And then counter-protesters are yelling. They're like, you're an embarrassment. You're an embarrassment to black people. You are an absolute embarrassment to the city, okay? You trying to make it a black thing. It's not a black thing. It's a you thing. You're corrupt. You're corrupt by yourself. It's not a black thing. It's a you thing, right? This dude's screaming. And he's like, what? Why is anything you're saying different from Trump? You're talking about you stand in the way. Stand in the way of what? You corrupt by yourself, right? And then Eric Adams like, and then he starts taking questions, right? And some of the questions were, you said that as soon as you stood up for New Yorkers, you would become a target. Who do you think you're a target of? Like Homeland Security, or what? There are government bodies that are serving you this indictment. Who do you think is targeting you, and why? And then he was like, that's a question for the federal government. And I was like, okay, not a great start. And then he goes, let me just get something clear right now. All right? And then the mic cuts out completely. It's like, I just want to say to y'all,
That's all I gotta say. It was incredible, you know? Incredible. I don't know. I would love to see Eric Adams go to Rikers. I mean, particularly because of the terrible job he's done with Rikers. Just so you know, Rikers is a horrific place. It's been compared to Guantanamo Bay. Mainly because most of the people in Rikers, around 85%, have not been convicted of a crime. They just cannot afford to get off Rikers. They can't afford to pay bail and stuff like that. But they sit there until the trial, and the trial is sometimes 8 months away, 9 months away. So they're potentially innocent people just sitting there, rotting in a jail in terrible conditions because they just didn't have money. Any one of us could not have money. Most of us don't have enough money for the things we would like. So that's how close we are to being them. You know? And it's so bad that there's a federal monitor that's like over Rikers. And Eric Adams has worked with Rikers to subvert everything that would have them comply with the federal monitor. Right? It's horrific. And all they've really done is like try to throw money and staffing at the problem, but then money and staffing have become the problem because now Rikers is such a cushy job that there are a lot of people who don't show up for work. So now they really are wasting money because they'll be understaffed on a day where everyone is scheduled and then everyone calls in sick. And then people die at Rikers. People die every year at Rikers. You know? It's absolutely insane. And the staffing, if I'm correct, maybe I'm wrong, right? But last time I looked it up, the staffing was like 2-to-1. No jail has 2-to-1. No jail anywhere has 2-to-1, you know? And so what a poetic thing it would be, you know, for the guy that a year ago gave the key to the city to Diddy. To also be like indicted and charged and sitting in Rikers. Rikers it'd be dope to see Eric Adams at Rikers. They just, he gets there and they're like, "What's up, buddy?" "Let's talk." Oh. And so many people have resigned too. So many people have resigned from Eric Adams' administration that I don't know who works at New York anymore. It's a lot of people. People nobody was talking to, by the way. Like people who just are like, I'm just in charge of the library, but I'm gonna go because the block is hot. I don't want these problems.
You know him, you came here to see him. Y'all go crazy. Josh Johnson is here, everybody.
My friends had a baby, right? And a lot of my friends are having babies either this year or some of them already had them last year. Basically, since the pandemic, I guess my friends have had a lot of time together. Okay. Basically, I met one of my friend's babies and I could tell that I was the baby's like first black person. Like I could tell, it was just so apparent. It was like, as soon as we looked at each other, he was like, he went through all of the emotions at one time. Like, cause when they rolled him over and he looked at me, he was like, "Oh. You know? And it was an odd feeling. I didn't even bring it up. I could just tell. You know what I mean? Like I could feel. And look, I'm not even saying it's the baby's fault. The baby got a white family.
hadn't got around to exploring the world yet, you know? I was the baby's first black person, and it made me think about, I don't know if I fully remember the real first time, but I kind of remember what I at least think was me meeting my first white person. It's very important that the day before this happened, I was at like a family picnic, right? I was at this family picnic and extended family had come. So I'm seeing cousins I don't normally see, and like all of the older people are there and everything. And so some of the kids are playing, some of them running around, right? There was one kid that was running around, knocking a bunch of stuff over, one of my older cousins, right? And he had to be like maybe 8 or 9 or something, but he's running around, and his parents were telling him, hey, slow down or stop or be still real quick. We're about to eat, all that stuff. And then he's still running around, knocking drinks over every once in a while. And finally, my great aunt, his grandma, as he was passing, she did that grandma move where she just snatched him real quick, right? Like, even his parents couldn't catch up. His parents were running like, come on now. She was like, pow, like it was incredible. She snatched the little arm and stopped him right there. And then she looked at him and he looked at her. And then she said through her teeth, so you know she meant it, right? She was like, if you don't be still, I'm going to slap the black off you. So the next day, when I met this kid, all I could think was, it can happen. Ooh, I gotta be extra nice to him. Something clearly going on at home. I was watching documentary about like serial killers and like sociopaths and stuff, and how basically they do these profiles where they try to identify whatever these like specific things are with their personality that make them the way they are, right? A lot of the traits and a lot of the signs. And one of the things they were saying in the documentary is that one of the best things you can do for anyone that's suffering from these sort of things is to find it as early as possible. That way you can help them before they do harm, you know? But then they also said that it's difficult to identify some of these traits when people are kids, because a lot of the list of what like psychopaths and sociopaths do as kids is a list of things that kids already do. Not the full list, but like a considerable amount of it, you know? And one of the things in the list is long-term bedwetting, right? Like bedwetting at like 13, 14, whatever, right? And it triggered a memory for me. Because when I was little, I had to be like 12 or something. I got invited to a sleepover, which was a big deal for me. I'm an only child, you know. Getting invited to a sleepover as a kid is like going out to the club as an adult. You know what I mean? It's the same energy. It's like me and my boys ride tonight. And so we got over there and we're having a great time. We're watching movies, we're playing games, we're like in the yard playing football and stuff. But it wasn't until it was time to go to bed that I realized that there was a hierarchy here. Because the kid who invited us, that was hosting us, only had so much room in his room. So his closest friend stayed in his room with him. And the rest of us stayed in the living room, right? And his parents made these little bulgy like blankets and stacks of quilts and stuff for us to sleep on and everything. And I know it shouldn't have been a big deal to me because we had been playing all day. But if you've ever been to a sleepover, you know that when you're supposed to be asleep is when the good stuff happens. That's when the real conversation is had. And that's when all the memories get made. And I'm out here in the living room with the losers. So I get ready to go to bed, right? And I was laying with this other kid because it was 2 to each for everything. And It's not really important to the story, but the kid's name was DeMarvin, right? And so we fall asleep, and I wake up, middle of the night. Don't even know why I woke up, you know? And I notice when I wake up that just like the side of my leg and the side of my elbow are wet. And so I look over, and DeMarvin not there, but his whole spot is wet. And I sat up, and as I sat up, I looked up, and DeMarvin was sitting across from me watching me sleep. That's strike one, all right? Any child who watches you sleep, that should be on the list right there. And not only is he watching me sleep, he got his legs crossed. That's strike two. How you gonna sit there and cross your legs and watch somebody sleep like a villain? He's watching me sleep, has his legs crossed, and when I sit up, you ever so scared you assume you're not awake? It was so freaky to just see him there already staring at me. I was like, I'm tripping, I need to go back to bed. This kid looks at me, legs crossed, and goes, Joshua? That's strike three. Full name? Full name. We're both kids. Full name? You're the devil. This kid looks at me and goes, Joshua, I've wet the bed. But I'm gonna tell everyone it was you. I'm not gonna lie, I was like, what? How does that even make sense? Like, I'm the side of my leg is wet. Your whole spot was wet. People saw you sleep here. What are you talking about? You gonna tell everybody that I wet the bed? And then he goes from this like crazy intense stare to his face softening, and he's like, do you ever change your clothes? And as soon as he says it, I get it. As soon as that kid says that, I fully understand. Because that's gotta be terrifying. You know, you're at a sleepover, maybe you don't get invited to many, and you wet the bed? You're around a bunch of 12-year-old boys and you wet the bed. You'll never live it down. Wetting the bed at a sleepover at 12 is like wetting the bed when you go out clubbing with your boys. It's like, you killing the whole vibe right now. I knew we shouldn't have invited Jerry. He wetting the bed. Can't handle his liquor at all. So as soon as he said it, I got it. I really did. I understood. I was like, dang, that's tough, right? I don't know what I would do. I wet the bed. I'm trying to make friends with other kids. I'm a living room kid as well, so I'm already a loser. And then I wet the bed. I wouldn't live it down. And so I looked at him. I was like, man, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I only have the clothes that I have. I don't have any extra clothes. And then he goes, oh, okay. And I don't know where he got it from, but as soon as he said okay, he grabbed a cup of water and he threw it on me, right? And as soon as he threw the water on my crotch, I was like, ow, what's wrong with you? And the first kid woke up and DeMarvin was like, Josh wet the bed. And this is my thing. It would have been so much simpler to wake up in the middle of the night, realize that you wet the bed, go to the kitchen, which I'm assuming he went to, grab a mug, which I'm assuming he did, fill it with water, which he must have had, and then just poured it on me while I was sleeping. That would have been so much easier. I wouldn't have known. I would have woken up and been like, damn, y'all, I'm sorry. I thought I was done with this. I'm killing the vibe right now. It's so much more insane to wake up, realize you wet the bed, sit across from me, wait for me to wake up, staring at me the whole time, crossing your legs, saying my full name, telling me your plan, and then throwing water on me. I don't know where DeMarvin is now. I'm assuming that he's alive and well. But I do know for a fact that someone somewhere is dead. My other friends had kids in like 2022, 2023 and stuff. So then their kids are like at that age where they're like over a year old. They're basically at that age where you keep still saying like months. You know what I'm talking about? Like nobody can just say like 1.2. I don't know, it's just as accurate, you know what I mean? Don't make me do the math. Because anything past 12, I know 12 months is a year, right? I know 18 months, year and a half. Once you hit me with a 27 months, I'm like... You know, and so their baby is 16 months. 1.6. And they have a beautiful little boy, right? But it's funny, I didn't even think about this until I was hanging out at their house, you know. When it comes to our nature as people, right? We have the id, we have the ego, we have the superego, right? The id is like your lowest form. It's the impulsive part of your brain that is repulsed by pain. It's excited by pleasure, seeks it at all costs, right? The superego is your judgment. It's sort of your higher self in a way. It's how you weigh and balance some of your actions. A lot of religions attribute it to like the God in us trying to tell us what's right and wrong morally. And the ego is what mediates between the id and the superego. So then you'll have an id moment. Superego will judge it. Ego will process it, right? Id is like, I would very much like to sleep with this person. Superego is like, don't do that. That's your friend's wife. And then ego is like, but she's so hot. Didn't say this was all going to be a good person, right? But it's interesting being around babies because babies are all like cave person. They're all id. They're not weighing anything yet. It's just, I would like to do that. I'd like to not do that. They're not thinking about the bigger picture, right? There was one point where my friend sat her baby down in his little seat, right? And she laid her coffee on the counter, right? And then she had to go grab something else. And as soon as she laid the coffee down on the counter, the baby looked at the coffee. And you could tell, and I don't know why I do this, but I always give babies in my head, I always give them deep voices when they're thinking, right? Because I saw the baby look at the cup and was like, the coffee is in the cup. But what if it wasn't? And so then this baby went to knock the cup over, right? Knock the cup over and just go ahead and watch the whole spill. And I don't know how, but babies are fast and slow at the same time, right? Because so she sat the baby down, walked away. The baby looked at the cup and looked at me. I looked at the cup and looked at the baby. And I swear, as soon as I started moving to stop the baby was like, oh! As soon as we locked eyes, it became an emergency. I gotta get this cup over. I have full legs. I was running at this baby. I
was running at the baby to stop him from knocking off the coffee so hard that I was scared I wouldn't stop. I was scared I was gonna take out the coffee and the baby, right? But I'm trying to make my way across the room and the baby just, oh! And right as he slapped the cup of coffee over, I got to him and I pulled him up and away from the coffee, and he was just looking at me. Like, look at me in my eyes, you know? And he didn't say anything, but you could tell he was thinking, I win. I don't know if y'all saw what's happening in LA, but the Archdiocese in LA just settled for $750 million with the lawsuits of everyone who had claimed abuse while they were patrons of the church. $750 million. I think $800 million when you count in some other stuff. That brings the Catholic Church's total payout to $1.5 billion. Anyone else would be closed. That's so much money. $1.5 billion that you had. You had $1 billion to pay out with. That's crazy, you know? There's no other company I could really think of that could do that much harm and be able to afford the payout. You know? You'd have to be like a gun manufacturer or something. It's so jarring, you know? I think that's what really bothers me about it. It's like there's the payout. And anytime someone has to pay, even if it hurts a little to pay, if they had the money, it feels like less justice. Because they had it. You know? You gotta make them pay a number that they genuinely don't know. I don't know if we can do. Good, that's exactly how much I want. You know, $1.5 billion worth of damage that you also admit you did. You know, this isn't like hush money. This is a settlement where everybody knows what happened and everybody knows how you handled it. You know, that's so jarring. And it makes you, how can that not affect your faith? You know what I mean? You went to this place. This is supposed to be the safest place in the world. This is supposed to be the place where you like lay down every burden, not pick up extra. Do you know what I mean? I don't even know where you go from here. It's beyond PR. You can't be like, but we also donate a lot to... I don't know if I want you around anybody right now. That's my thing. I don't even just care about the money. I'm glad that they had to pay, and I'm glad that, you know, survivors are getting something for all those years of trauma, all those years of therapy, all those years of like trying to navigate the world, and people looking at you like it must be you. If you're dealing with something all day, it does not escape your mind, and you can't even hold down a job because the way that people are around you affects everything that you do. I'm glad that they have something in return from that, you know, because you can't undo what's been done, right? But like who's in jail? Is anybody in jail? We always forget that jail would be better. Do you know what I mean? I'm sure that that's what they want, but it takes so long to get justice. Half of the monsters are like dead. And then the other half are like still alive, but then there's like statute of limitations, which I don't know. I don't fully understand statute of limitations because I understand that it's constitutional to have a fair and speedy trial, right? But we don't seem to do that either. You know what I mean? Like if Young Thug's trial can last 75 years, why can't
you'd be like, you too. Get over here. I know it was a long time ago. Doesn't change the fact that you did it. You know? That's what's so painful about it too. You know? Because then it affects you whether you know it or not. Whether you're, you know, like Christian, Catholic, whatever. You try to tell somebody about Jesus and they're like, oh, I've heard. Do you know what I mean? It's a burden that we all carry. It's a weight that like is inescapable. And it happened to, in a way, it happened to all of us. Obviously not in direct enough of a way that I'm like claiming some victimhood or anything, but it also, you yourself might trust this person that you find out is a monster, which then makes you question everything this person said to you. Maybe they didn't do anything to you, but they did something so horrific to someone else that you're like, how can that person that did those things be right about what happens when you die? Like, I know the two seem like they don't have anything to do with each other, but they are so directly related because this person is basically telling you the keys to a good life, the keys to being a good person, and the keys to salvation. And then you realize that they were dangling those keys over someone else to keep their silence, right? That's too heavy, you know? I don't even know where you would go from here, because nothing that is said by anyone in the church seems to fill the void that the church has created, both between people and themselves and between the people who had harm done to them and the way to redemption. It's just so far, you know? And the people writing now, the people who write for the church, the people who are the spokespeople, the people that we see, they don't have it like that really. Like they're like when they say their words, it doesn't hit like the Bible hit. There's no thous that can bridge the gap that's been created, right? There's no ye's that make me feel better. You know? Because I don't know. What is the truth taught by a liar? Do you know what I mean? Even if you really believe, you believe it from the bottom of your heart, this guy, this Weinstein is going to be the guy who spreads the word? That seems short-sighted. And then how they handled it too, because they handled it like the mob would handle it. You know? They didn't look at those people, those patrons, those souls that they have a responsibility to, that they took up the responsibility to. No, I personally don't know anyone who was made to go to seminary. Everybody there is a volunteer, you know? And so you'd find out. Sometimes it was the priests themselves telling their superior, I got a problem, right? And the superior was like, we'll get you out of town. That was the move for a long time. It's why so much damage was done, you know? If your toilet is broken, you get it out the house. You don't move it to another family's house to ruin their life. Do you see what I mean? You know what I mean? And it's just, I don't know. I know I kind of like land on this thing a lot. And so I'm doing the point a disservice, you know? Because a part of me hopes against hope that I don't care how it happens. I want everything that those priests were teaching to be real, right? I want it to be the truth. So that way we all know in our hearts that there's a hell. And I know that's like way more fire and brimstone. That's not like the uplifting message or anything, but I don't know. I just feel like it would be nice. It'd be nice to, you know, finally get justice. 20 years too late, the person's passed away, and then you're like, nah, God got him. You know?